Hey guys, it's Kira and today I'm coming at you with week 3 of my vegan bake-along for the Great British Bake Off, also known as Fake Off. And this week was bread week, which going into watching the TV show I was super excited about because I know that bread is Paul Hollywood's main thing, and I was like, what exciting bake am I going to be given this week? And then when they announced the technical, which if you don't know was Burger Baps or Burger Buns, my face literally dropped. I was like, are you serious? Burger buns, that's so boring. And so that is what I'm going to be taking on this week. However, having watched the challenge on the show, Paul's main piece of advice to the bakers before they started the technical was it's not as easy as it looks. And I know that bread is quite a technical thing in general and a lot can go wrong. So sometimes it can be interesting to really dial it back to something that seems super simple and try and just absolutely nail it. So although it's not necessarily the most exciting bake of all time, I am really interested to see if it is as easy as I think it's going to be and hopefully end up with some nice burger buns because, you know, I love bread. Who doesn't love bread? Bread's amazing. So if all else fails, at least I'll have a few new bread rolls in my life after this video is finished. So without further ado, I'm going to head down to the kitchen and get started on this bake, which I'm hoping will be a lot more interesting than I currently think it will. Okay, so we're just getting ready to make some baps, and in my opinion the word bap is actually a really bizarre word. It's definitely not the word I would use to describe a burger carrying device. And so earlier me and Jay were discussing what we'd call it, and we both agreed that it's either like a bread cake or a burger bun or like a bread bun. And basically in England, if you're not from England, there is a massive debate across the country about the various words to describe a bread roll basically. So if you are from England, let me know where you're from and what you would call this, and if you're not from England, let me know as well, because I don't know if this is a debate that crosses countries or if it's just an England or Britain debate. But yeah, so it's time to make some bread buns / as Paul Hollywood calls them, baps. And on another positive note, last week I believe I mentioned that I was basically a baking fraud because I don't have any of the correct equipment, but last weekend Jay and I went on holiday, and when we came back someone had purchased a sieve. So I feel like I'm now moving up in the world as a baking person, and I'm really excited because this is the ideal thing to obviously measure out my flour with, and I just feel like such a baking pro. So without further ado, let's get started with baking. So first off is obviously to just put the flour into the mixing bowl with my very professional sieving device. Wow, what a pro. So pretty. I'm making a mess though. I feel like this wouldn't have happened if I was just using the tipping into the bowl method that I normally use. So who's really the pro, if you know what I mean? Now I feel like this is a very simple recipe, and yet at the same time I reckon a lot could go wrong because when it comes to bread it can always be a bit hit and miss, and I'm clearly falling at the very first hurdle because the yeast is unopenable. It's meant to be one of those tear up ones, but clearly that's not the case today. So I'm just using 1 pack of yeast. Now the official recipe on the Bake Off website did say that it was to make 8 bread buns. And I did not want 8 burger buns because literally who do they think I am? I'm not hosting a party, it's just me, and I'm not going to be that sad to eat 8 burger buns all on my own. So I have half the recipe to make 4, which I think if you're going to be making the recipe and you're not hosting a party, 4 is a much more normal amount, because you could just split that between 2 people for dinner, or spread them across a couple of days, and it just seems more normal. But I have kept the yeast quantity the same, which is just 1 7-gram pack of yeast, because as a rule that is the amount of yeast that I use pretty much for every single bread recipe ever, and it always seems to work well for me, so that's what I'm taking into this recipe as well. Next up we've got 7 grams of salt, but I'm just gonna eyeball it. That'll do the trick. 15 to 20 grams of sugar. And the recipe called for vegetable shortening. I have no idea what that is. So I've just gone for, I believe shortening is like some kind of like fat, and I believe animal shortening would obviously be like lard. And so I have just gone for my usual trusty vegan butter, because that always seems to do the trick. And if it's just to add a bit of fat to the recipe, then I reckon that should work out just fine. And as always, I'm just going to kind of like rub that into the flour mixture, just to kind of spread it throughout the mixture evenly. I have to say, this is a very basic recipe, but I'm very reluctant to sound like cocky about it, because I feel like that is the very thing that would make me absolutely fail at this recipe so hard. So yeah, I do enjoy making bread dough, and normally it goes relatively okay, so I am hopeful, but you know, who knows what could happen. This is fake off after all. And the very final step of what seems like a basic recipe is just to add water. I've just got some warm water. I mixed water from the kettle with just some cold water from the tap, and I'm just going to add that a little bit by little bit to make what is supposed to be a soft but not too sticky dough, according to Paul Hollywood's recipe. A wet-ish ball of dough, and the next step is just to turn that out onto the counter here and knead it for about 10 minutes until it's a super smooth ball. Now here's a good time to point out that I have absolutely no kneading technique whatsoever. I just kind of like chuck it around. I don't know if anyone really has a technique. People on Bake Off seem to pretend that they do, but like, is there really any way to have a technique to this other than just like chucking it around? And, you know, I don't think so anyway. I also feel like 10 minutes seems like an awfully long time to knead something. Especially because Paul is usually so critical about overworking stuff, but you know, Paul's not going to be eating these bread buns, so I guess I can just do what I want. I picked a very not practical jumper to do this challenge, seeing as bread is very hands-on. I'm very interested to see how this goes, because although I do enjoy making bread, my favourite type of bread to make is like these super like crusty outside bread with then like a nice fluffy inside, whereas obviously burger buns are like a very soft floury bread, and I've never attempted to make that because that's not the type of bread I usually like to eat, and so I don't know how that is going to go. We shall find out, I suppose. I was wondering what the pink things were in the dough, and then I just remembered I did pink Himalayan salt. I was like, what has gone in here? But obviously it's an ingredient that I put in there. Duh. Right, so that is like the shortest 10 minutes ever, but I just feel like it's getting quite stiff and I don't want to overwork it. And like I said, I'm doing a smaller amount of dough, so I'm going to do a smaller amount of kneading, but I think really the main objective of that was to get a nice, small and neat, smooth bit of dough, and that is what I have achieved here. So yeah, I'm going to leave this now and cover it up and then allow it to rise for about an hour, and it's meant to double in size during that time. You're meant to just leave it in a warm place, so I'm just going to leave it in the kitchen because people have just been cooking in here, so it's nice and warm. Okay, so it's been an hour and I'm about to reveal the dough and hope that it has actually risen, so let's see what we've... Yay! Success! Okay, so next step is to weigh out this dough to see how much we've got, split that exactly into 4 equal pieces, roll them into their little mini bread roll shapes, and then leave them for another 45 minutes to prove again. Let's see what we're working with. Hopefully this won't stick to my scale. So we've got basically 360 grams of dough.
106.
Shh. I can do this. So 300 divided by 2 is 150. Divided by 2 is 75. 75, then 60 divided by 2 is 15, and so 75, no wait, yeah, 15 and 75 is 90. 4 90-gram rolls. Great job, me. That was
How much is it? 306?
360.
Alright.
I can math on account of the baking pro that I am. I actually have a dough thingy-majiggy. Which did you say it's a Paul Hollywood one?
Yeah.
It's a Paul Hollywood one, so that's very on brand. So I'm going to split the dough now and hopefully into 4 equal pieces. So now I've got 4 relatively equal dough bits. I'm not going to be super over the top with it because it's only me eating them. I'm just going to basically roll them into little rolls, which I'm going to do by, basically, I'll show you with the next one. Bad demonstration. So you basically take the piece of dough, then you fold each of the corners into the center and kind of just like press them in and shove them in until you get a nice round top, and then you kind of just flatten them out and voila. Okay, so then in this bake, which is basically a whole lot of waiting and not a lot of doing stuff, I'm just going to put each of the floured rolls onto this lightly floured baking tray, and yet again just have to cover them up. And this time we are leaving them for 45 minutes, and hopefully again we'll see them nicely rise in about the same sort of like doubling that we saw the first time around. So yeah, see you in 45 minutes. So like officially there are 5 minutes left before I'm meant to be checking these bread rolls, but literally every single fibre of my being wants to lift up this tea towel and check on them and put them in the oven straight away, because I'm so impatient when it comes to any kind of baking that involves waiting for something. I love the actual like doing stuff, but the waiting I'm not so good at. But the one thing stopping me is that tiny little voice in the back of my head that sounds a lot like Paul Hollywood telling me that these bread rolls will maybe be like underproofed if I get them out too soon. So I'm just using my inner Paul Hollywood to stop myself from looking at them too early. But it's such a challenge when you are impatient like me. So yeah, I'm just like, hate waiting. Yes! Okay, finally that longest ever 5 minutes has passed, and I can now check out my bread rolls. And judging by the little tiny lumps underneath this tea towel, I'm guessing that this second proof went well, so let's find out. Ooh, beautiful. Okay, and then they're just ready to go in the oven. So these need to be baked for 10 to 15 minutes. And as I've mentioned in every video of this series so far, our oven is very temperamental, and the one thing that I always seem to get wrong is bread, because the top always seems to cook and go too brown before the middle has fully baked. So I'm going to be very, very careful and keep a close eye on these. I'm going to bake them and hopefully all will go well. 22. Okay, it's time to get them out of the oven, so fingers crossed, and hopefully they look as good as they smell, because they smell amazing. Ah, perfect. They look awesome.
They smell
I'm so excited
really
to try
good.
them.
Wow.
Okay, so my bread rolls are out of the oven, or my baps, and they look incredible and they smell even better. I honestly cannot wait to try them. I was like super disappointed when I saw that this was a technical challenge for this week because I thought it just sounded super boring and I wasn't really that excited to make plain bread rolls, but actually looking at them now, they smell incredible and I do love bread. So we just need to cut into one of them and see how we've done. They're super soft and I think I have actually successfully managed to not do a like super big crust on them, which is what I was worried about because that's what I usually do. So now for the most important part of any baking challenge, I'm going to try it and see how it is. Now obviously it is literally just a plain bread roll, so you know it's not like an insane burst of flavour or anything like that, but the texture is super soft and pillowy. It has a really nice flavour and I think it's really good. Do you want to try it?
I'll try a little bit, yeah. Try not to do too much. Oh my god, it's so good.
Fake off high five. Ooh, great connection. Right, so that was, in my opinion, a very successful bake. Now, in the actual episode of Bake Off last week, they had to make veggie burgers to go with it. Personally, I'm not big on burgers, and so later on this evening, I'm going to be having mine with some Linda McCartney vegan sausages as part of my dinner. So I will also do a taste test then because I feel like you don't know how good it is until you've actually used it as a functional burger bun. So I'm going to use it later on and I'll show you what I think there, but for now I'm super happy with how these burger buns have gone because they taste, look and smell amazing. Yeah. Okay, so I've got one of my lovely bread buns along with some of the best vegan sausages in the whole world, which are the Linda McCartney vegetarian sausages, and I'm going to give this a taste test. I've also got a whole lot of ketchup in there because I love ketchup. Oh my god. Wow. So happy. That is literally the best ever. Cannot wait to finish this off. But yeah, I'd highly recommend trying it with these Linda sausages because it's so good, and definitely a lot of ketchup as well because what's a sausage sandwich without ketchup? Alright guys, so that was my attempt at Paul Hollywood's Burger Babs, and actually I'm very pleasantly surprised with how it turned out. As I said earlier, I was a little bit worried that this was going to be like the most boring video of all time because it's literally just plain burger buns, but actually it was really fun to take on the challenge and see how well I could make the burger buns, and you know, not to like big myself up or anything, but I actually think I did a pretty good job, and as well, they were really great to have with a sausage sandwich, so you know, it was a win-win for me because Linda McCartney sausages are life and bread is life, so put the two together and you definitely have a winner. So if you try out this recipe, I definitely recommend trying them along with some Linda McCartney sausages rather than a burger because in my opinion a sausage sandwich is just way superior to a burger, but that is just me. Now, with all of the other recipes for this Fake Off series, I've been doing a blog post, but actually Paul Hollywood's burger buns were actually vegan, and so for that reason I didn't have to make any alterations to his recipe. So instead of doing a post on my blog, I will just be linking to the Bake Off website where his recipe can be found because I don't want to just put up the exact same recipe and claim it as my own, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing for this week, but I hope you have enjoyed seeing me take on Paul Hollywood's burger bun recipe, and I actually had a lot more fun baking this one than I thought I was going to. Now next week is actually going to be very, very interesting because if I thought my face dropped when they announced that I was going to be doing the technical challenge of burger buns, which I thought was super boring, my face seriously dropped when they announced what next week's theme was, which if you don't know, it's Dairy Week. Now obviously I'm a vegan, and so that is literally my nightmare, and the only thing that could have been on par with that is if they'd announced that it was Meat Week, and actually I feel like replacing dairy can sometimes be harder than replacing meat. So next week's Fake Off challenge, trying to replace whatever the technical challenge is for Dairy Week, is going to be a very interesting experience indeed, so I hope you'll be all tuning in to see how I cope with that one. But for now, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.